could cause the Kamala Harris campaign a lot of legal headache. It could cause them, by today's standards, 34 felony counts to be indicted because of misfiled paperwork or misfiled campaign finances. If they do not follow to the T the FEC guidelines, the Federal Elections Commission guidelines, well, who knows? Somebody might end up in jail, even though in the past these have been misdemeanor problems, filing paperwork incorrectly. It could be a huge problem. I want you to watch this brief clip. We don't actually have to get into any of the meat of what either of these people actually say. This is Kamala Harris and America Ferrera on an Instagram video, a couple days ago. Watch this and we'll discuss what I think is a pretty important detail on regarding campaign finance laws, especially in the president being found guilty of pretty similar violations. Watch this.
Hey guys, it's me. I just wanted to jump on here real quick and make it clear that I am with Kamala. No, seriously, I'm with Kamala.
Hi guys.
Hi, Vice President.
That's so good.
I have something I've been dying.
Okay.
As you know, the Supreme Court took away a fundamental freedom from the women of America.
Yes.
People that I love and that I've spoken to are angry, they're confused, they feel alone.
Yeah.
And I wanted to hear from you. What is your message to the women of America?
Yeah, none of what they actually said matters at all. What does actually have the potential to matter a lot is whether or not the Kamala Harris campaign files that video appropriately according to the Federal Elections Commission. What I mean by that is this. The video was with America Ferrera. America Ferrera is a TV/movie star with 2.3 million Instagram followers. Now, what does that mean exactly? Well, if you had a business or service and you would like to be advertised on America Ferrera's Instagram page, you would have to pay her a pretty penny. By the lowest of estimates, in order to get her to post something, you're probably looking at about 10, probably more. Anywhere between 10 grand to $25,000 is what it probably would cost to get posted on a page with 2.3 million Instagram followers. That's an estimate, but I do know quite a few people that are in this business that do that sort of thing. Okay, fine. Well, if anything benefits a campaign in any way, shape, or form, it needs to be reported in the campaign finance filings. If I were to give a person for the state senate in my state a ride to the airport, I would, technically speaking, legally have to document the gas that was used, the parking that I paid, anything that benefited the campaign, which obviously getting that candidate to the airport would benefit the campaign. Anything that benefited the campaign would be necessary to document in the campaign filing documents. Now, it could be an in-kind donation or they could reimburse me for it, but at the end of the day, something has to go down paper. So, given the fact that any average Joe posting on America Ferrera's page would have to pay her an exuberant amount of money, you have to ask the question, well, considering the fact that this Instagram post benefited Kamala Harris's campaign, does the Harris campaign have to pay for those goods and or services that, like I said, benefited the campaign? Well, the answer is yes. And the question is, well, how are they going to file it? If they were going to pay like any Joe Schmo would, they would effectively have to put America Ferrera or her company or her camp on the Kamala Harris for President campaign payroll. Now, I don't know if America Ferrera wants that to happen, but in order to receive the advantage of having posted to that Instagram platform, legally would have to happen. I don't think the Kamala Harris campaign wants to shell out $10,000 or even $25,000 to America Ferrera for that video. Two, I don't think the America Ferrera team, her management, her agent, anybody who represents her, wants her to be a paid employee or contractor of the Kamala Harris campaign. And lastly, I don't think anybody talked about this. Imagine that they were backstage together at some rally. I think that was the one in Atlanta. And America Ferrera takes out her phone and says, I'm with Kamala. No, literally, I'm with Kamala. Ha, 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 ha. She posts it to her Instagram page, sends a invite to collaborate on the Instagram post, and the 22-year-old intern that's running Kamala Harris's social media account clicks accept without any thought of the fact that you do have to declare this as a campaign donation in the fact that, well, it benefited the campaign. So if none of those things are going to happen, okay, well, what about an in-kind donation? Well, what is an in-kind donation? Take the example of me driving the police airport. If I don't ask for reimbursement, still technically I have to document the gas that was used by my car, the wear and tear on the automobile. I think it's like 55 cents a mile federally, the parking that I paid. All of that is an in-kind donation, which is a non-monetary, but this video could cause the Kamala Harris campaign a lot of legal headache. Gift to the campaign. Okay, well, if America Ferrera posting on Instagram is actually going to benefit the campaign, it would need to be an in-kind donation in some way, shape, or form, considering that people would ordinarily have to pay for that sort of online real estate. Here's the problem. Like I said, at the bare minimum, to get her to post a video for you, for your business, you or I, it would cost about $10,000. The maximum amount an individual can donate to a presidential campaign is $3,300, which, if you're not good at math, $10,000 is over the $3,300 limit threshold. Now, just for the sake of the argument, I don't know if this is a primary or a presidential race yet. I don't know if she still gets to use primary campaign funds or this is now the presidential funds, considering she hasn't actually had the nomination yet. But let's just say you get to combine both, because if you don't know this, you're allowed to give the maximum amount during the primary, and then you're allowed to give the maximum amount again in the general election. So a combined total of $6,600. That's what your max amount donated to the campaign is allowed to be. Okay, well, that's still underneath the bare minimum of $10,000 of what would generally be required in order to get on America Ferrera's Instagram page. So, one of two things. The campaign either pays her for it, and they have to document that, or two, it's considered an in-kind donation and therefore breaks the law by the maximum amount of donation that you're allowed to give as an individual. Now, they could, in theory, file it under a joint campaign expenditure. They could file it under a super PAC. They could file it under... There's a lot of different things that could happen here that I guess technically could make this legal, but at the end of the day, I don't think there is a thought to do any of those sorts of things. Because historically speaking, misfiling campaign paperwork and campaign finance documentation is not really that big of a deal. Now, I don't want to downplay breaking the law, because breaking the law, regardless of the severity, is a problem. But everybody I know who works in politics has been hit with an FEC fine or a fine from the regulatory agency in their particular state. That is to say, this sort of thing, paperwork misfilings, happen often. It's not that big of a deal. It happened to Obama. Obama got hit with an FEC violation fine. He had to pay a fine, whatever. Now, here's the problem. I don't know if you remember this, but putting this relative to what's been going on recently, there was I forget the guy's name, a former president that got indicted by a district attorney on a federal crime, which blows my mind to begin with, and then that general misdemeanor got elevated to a felony indictment. I forget, well, it'll come to me. The guy's name will come to me. But anyways, a former president got indicted for effectively a very similar mistake on their campaign finance documentation. Now, I understand that the Kamala Harris team has not made this mistake yet, and I will hopefully be looking at the campaign report filings to make sure that this particular video was filed appropriately. But my guess is that it won't be. And if it isn't filed accurately and appropriately, well, what does that mean for the Kamala Harris campaign? Will they get hit with multiple felonies by a local jurisdiction DA on a federal charge? Because apparently you can do that. Oh, Donald Trump. That was the guy's name. It was Donald Trump that got indicted for and found guilty of effectively doing the same thing. Now, we don't need to talk continually because we already have about Donald Trump's whether or not it was a misdemeanor and how it got elevated to a felony, but they never actually told him what the other crime that he supposedly was attempting to commit. We don't need to get into all of that. You can find other literature or content explaining that whole debacle. But at the end of the day, he was found guilty of 34 felonies for, like I said, misfiling campaign finance paperwork. So the question then is, if the Kamala Harris campaign doesn't file this paperwork appropriately and somebody catches them, what happens? Does the Kamala Harris campaign get charged with a felony rather than pay the normal misdemeanor fine? At the end of the day, I don't know. But this video, given the other surrounding instances, let's just say that, could pose a big problem for the Kamala Harris campaign if they file the paperwork incorrectly, inaccurately, or fraudulently. I guess we'll see. I promise I will try to pay attention to it as much as possible.